This is not the only allegation within this realm that's been made about Benny. This is the episode directly following his response to the Russia allegations. We always seem to talk about Sneako, and I'm curious if you've seen any of the recent stuff around him.
Yeah, I feel like him and Fuentes have like a breakup like every 3 months.
There's kind of a big breakup going on right now, though, around the Haitian cat debacle. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, well, because Sneako is at least half Haitian, right?
Right, and he's basically saying that, well, first of all, he's saying white nationalism is gay. I wanted to have a little chat about the Russia stuff a little bit more, kind of some tangential notes, because I've been doing a video about this stuff, and I was looking into it. What do you know about Benny Johnson?
Crazy, absolutely insane propagandist. Wouldn't surprise me if he was being paid by somebody, but could also just be incredibly stupid. Well, no, sorry, not stupid. He is intentionally malicious. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you know anything about his history?
No, I don't actually at all. From my impression, he just started to pop up. I've seen him on peers, or I think I've debated him on peers a couple times, but I don't know anything about his past. He could be an established figure, and I just wouldn't know. I don't know. Why? What about it?
Okay. So I was looking into his stuff. I browsed around his Wikipedia a bit. I browsed around some other websites, and I found out that he actually used to work at BuzzFeed, which is pretty interesting. He worked there, I believe, from 2012 to 2014.
Okay.
And he was, writing articles there, which is, kind of a weird place to work, just retrospectively, obviously, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean,
Sure.
people can work somewhere despite not agreeing with the politics.
One thing I'll say, if this ever comes up in your video, just a minor aside, there was a brief moment in time where BuzzFeed was going to make like a genuine foray into the political world, and they were actually doing a surprisingly good job, and then they gave up after a year. I don't know why, but just as a heads up on that.
Right.
Okay.
Well, maybe one of the reasons they gave up is because of the reason Benny was fired. I have an article here from Politico, and I was curious to have you take a look at this. It's pretty interesting. This is not the only allegation within this realm that's been made about Benny, but it is interesting just because, I was looking through the Tenet media promotional video, and Benny was basically talking about how he wants journalism to be done the right way. He wants reporting to be done the right way.
Yeah. And
this guy has a history of plagiarism allegations being made about him. And this article from Politico outlines some of it. If you want to take a look at it, I DM'd it to you. It's
I was looking at it as a wiki. I clicked the link, and I'm looking at it now. Yeah, I see it. Yeah. Okay. What about it?
So I was going through it. Essentially, they accuse him of plagiarizing in 41 articles, which is a lot. BuzzFeed, it's a lot of articles. And obviously, in the journalism world, plagiarism is a big no-no. But
in most worlds, I'd say, but yeah.
Yeah, well, especially in journalism, among journalists, it's a big no-no, right? Because, people write articles, they work on this stuff, they do research, and here he was, ironically, I don't know if he's ever accused you of just reading Wikipedia, but it's ironic that he was literally copying seemingly quotes from Wikipedia, and he ended up responding to it, saying that he was sorry for not attributing things properly. But the the funny thing about that is that nobody in the replies believes him, and that's not even what the editor at BuzzFeed said. He said that he was basically ripping from people. But I decided to look into it a little more, and I found out this is not the only allegation of plagiarism. This website called Pointer, this other publication, talks about him seemingly plagiarizing, pretending to have sources that he didn't have. This is also an interesting article to take a look at. I don't know the in-depth veracity of this second allegation, but it is interesting that these kinds of people talk about quote unquote real journalism. And there seems to be a hatred of mainstream media.
Yeah. With these guys, there's a corny saying, but it's really true, where every accusation is a confession. These guys engage in all of the worst types of behavior, and then they they accuse other people of doing it. Yeah, it's really dumb.
Yeah, and it's even I don't really like politically biased reporting a lot of the time, but that in and of itself I think is way less of an issue than plagiarism, like straight up ripping on people. Because at least with politically biased reporting, you can click through their sources and figure out what's going on. But with this, the sources aren't even being cited. There's no attributions being made. It's very frustrating. To see someone, like this, who talks about how shitty journalists are, having accusations of plagiarism that, in my opinion, they seem relatively founded. They seem foundational. They seem based and red-pilled. So it's kind of interesting. Hassan insists Benny's gay. All right, well, Hassan probably wants him to be gay. Let's not get into that.
If you're ever bored, I don't know if this is like entertaining for a normie or not normie, like non-politically plugged in person or not, but if you're ever bored, scrolling through, do you understand anything about defamation?
Yeah, sure.
Are you aware that to sue for a public figure to sue somebody for defamation, they have to meet that actual malice standard?
Yes.
Yeah, which is quite difficult. Generally, you can't do it. If you're ever bored, the slides in the Dominion versus Fox News lawsuit are actually unhinged. I think I opened this on stream because I wanted to get some information, and I think I ended up reading through the entire thing because it's just so many crazy. Like
we did go over some parts of this during the J6
I remember,
panel
yeah.
thing.
But like this whole, there was
that.
It's slide after slide after slide after slide after slide. Like I just showed a random spot, and it's like Tucker Carlson. Sidney Powell is lying, by the way. I caught her. It's insane. Bingo. Happy to explain it, but I never want to lower ourselves if we can help it. A redacted Venezuelan affidavit. It's ludicrous. Like this whole thing shows that like the entire network, every single exec, every single host knew that they were lying on air. Constantly.
Right.
But yeah, it's insane. The level of like depravity that conservative media has sunk to is unreal. It's not even close. This is why I hate it when people do that. Like, well, yeah, both sides have problems, because they do, but it's like not even close to equivalent. Nothing like this has, like the closest thing that's ever come out on the Democrat side for this would, and that I'm aware of, would probably be CNN's like Donna Brazile passed some debate questions off to Hillary before a debate, which was bad. She shouldn't have done it. It was not good. But like, this is insane. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think that if I look at the last like 10 years of like internet culture war stuff, because I've been watching this stuff as I've been growing up, I remember a big point of contention back around 2015, 16 was essentially on this idea that the media is biased, they're misreporting facts, and they have a contempt for you. And a big, I think, reason why people believe that, which in fairness was a really up thing for CNN to do, was there was this guy who back in the day had posted, you remember this controversy around this GIF of like Trump being in WWE?
The guy who they doxed or threatened to dox?
Yeah, exactly. And that was genuinely like, what the f is wrong with you, right? That was like terrible. I don't know how CNN or anybody, any editor approved that, and that was horrible.
Well, I think let me to play that side a little bit. I think that the challenging or interesting part about that was doxing is really something that only exists like in the internet world. Like in the media world, you report on stuff. You don't really think twice about publishing the name of a person if you discover something. That's just like standard practice for media. I do agree that in our world, it looked like a dox, right? Like in the internet world, they were basically saying like, oh.
But the thing is, like, whatever you want to call it, like CNN even thinking that it was justified to look into the personal information of a guy who posted a very harmless meme of like Trump in a GIF, like, you know, hitting CNN over the head with a chair or something, in like WWE, is ridiculous. It's insane.
I mean, I think I agree with you mostly, for sure. But I think the issue is that while that situation was insane and there was a lot of negative coverage of it, compare that to like libs of TikTok, which is...
Well, that was the next thing I was going to bring up, which is that in a vacuum, that is horrible, and there's no justification for it, and I don't like it. But it seems to me like the response culturally, whatever, politically, has kind of like, it's kind of flipped, where now it's okay for libs of TikTok to dox anyone. And, you know, I'm sure there have been, I'm not going to say that every instance of doxing is bad, because there are justified instances if somebody is engaged in criminal behavior, you know, or maybe there's like non-criminal behavior that I would even be able to justify, like, you know, somebody could be doxxed for that, right? I can't think of any examples right now, but there are probably some justifications for it. But the problem to me is like half the people they dox are, probably more than half, are completely undeserving. Like there was that case where this woman on Facebook had been like, I wish Trump got clipped or something. And somebody like went to her Home Depot job and like filmed her and then Liz of TikTok like posted it and then got her fired.
That guy drove apparently 2 hours to go and record her too at her job.
Right. And then on the other hand, like you also have like, you know, Liz of TikTok is doxing people all the time, and that's completely unjustified. But then, you know, Taylor Lorenz, a journalist who I don't particularly like, but she went to Libs of TikTok's house to talk to her, and Libs of TikTok and a bunch of other people ran with the narrative that she was being doxxed and it was a horrible thing. And it's like, well, I agree in a vacuum. Like nobody deserves that unless you're constantly doxing people all day.
Here's something that I would say that I feel my feelings about this were kind of nebulous, but they've solidified and congealed a lot. Maybe you can talk me out of it, or maybe you agree. I think for media stuff, I think we should know who's like doing big reports. If there are massively popular accounts that are having like sway on our opinions in terms of media, I think it's worthy for people to unmask those accounts to know who they are. I'm not saying like addresses need to be posted, but I think it's really scary when you've got like 10 accounts that are totally anonymous that have a huge sway on U.S. socio-cultural political opinions. I think let's say there's like 10 accounts that are being posted constantly, right? Let's say that we find out that all 10 of those accounts are ran by Chinese people or Russian people or Iranian people. I think that's worthy to know. Like that's newsworthy, and I think we should know.
I think that probably is newsworthy. I worry the slippery slope that we go down there with I think there is a benefit to anonymity online, and I think some people are deserving of it, frankly, and I don't think they deserve to have their identity compromised. And I don't like the idea that we can justify doxing anyone.
For small people, I think that's fair. Like if you're just a normal person posting shit, but when you're like a large enough account that you're starting to have a sway on media, I think you should be identified at the very least.
How far does this argument extend to you?
No clue, but people like Libs of TikTok are easily over the threshold. Would somebody with like 1,000 followers count? Probably not. But when you're starting to hit these top 10 Twitter accounts, and we have no idea who any of these people are, and they have significant input on how Americans feel about media, I think that's very scary. Like that, whatever the threat is of doxing, this is easily outweighing that threat, I think.
Well, let's go down that line of thinking a little bit. So let's say you have, let's just imagine some random YouTuber, okay, who's not political, who just is anonymous as well, right? Doesn't use their face, you don't know who they are, you don't know their name.
Yeah.
And they eventually start posting more political stuff and talking about it. Do you think that person is deserving of being identified?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What is the threshold for you? Is it like one tweet? Like, let's say they say like, I want to vote for Trump. Is that enough?
I think once there's not going to be like a concrete way to measure it, but once you're starting to post like multiple things that have some kind of relationship with the current political media sphere, and you're anonymous, I think that should be looked at with a lot of scrutiny, I think.
Why would their identity being revealed have a big weight on why do you think it needs to be revealed? Why do you think
because if people are starting to believe a bunch of stuff and have opinions that are being heavily informed by foreigners, I think that's important to know, because this is in the United States of America, one citizen, one vote. Our democracy survives off of the votes of our people. And if people are being influenced by foreign powers that aren't revealing themselves, I think that's a very scary world. I think that's very unhealthy.
What if you find their identity and they're not a foreign power? Do you not publish it?
No, you don't have to. And even like, I'd even maybe be willing to say that you don't even have to publish a name, but just like a nationality or like where they live. Like, are they from Russia? Are they from China? Like America, like that. Like, I think it's probably fine. I don't think the name is necessarily important. I really want to know who is saying things that are not from this country. That's very.
Is this over a concern of just like foreign interference in elections, like with the Russia thing that happened?
Yeah, but foreign interference in elections makes everybody's brain explode. Just foreign hold over our discourse is very scary. We're fighting, and we have so many crazy things popping up within our country domestically that I don't think are real issues. I think they're heavily foreign driven. That Iman Khalif boxer thing is a great example of that. Nobody knows anything about female Olympic boxing or gives a about any of these issues, but that was like a wedge story that was driven to insane heights, I think, off the backs a lot of international and foreign media that amplify the of that. And that's just, it's very, very, very scary. And I think especially now, like before it was kind of like a meme and who cares, but now you've got like Ukrainians that are sitting in ditches waiting for more ammunition. And in the United States, we don't know if we even want to support this war because of all the crazy wedge misinformation, cultural and social issues that are being so pushed on our social media platforms, especially X.
Right. So Another thing I want to talk about is in regards to Tim. You saw his video response, and one of the things you commented on was he was like, on the Culture War podcast, we don't even always discuss politics. We discuss apolitical things like movies and dating and stuff like that. And you made the comment that, well, obviously a lot of these things can easily be political, especially from someone like Tim Pool, right? Have you looked in at all to his podcast and seen the kind of stuff he talks about?
I think I was on one of his episodes. I haven't, but I can't imagine that it's not super political because of the type of loser he is.
So there was one interesting thing I noticed. So in Tim's response, he talks about, he's like, go check out the Culture War podcast. We talk about a lot of stuff. We talk about dating. I went on, some of that before. I went on the channel and I looked at, there was an episode you were on with John Doyle, right? Yeah. Talking about dating. And that was definitely a very political conversation. It was about like feminism and stuff like that. As far as like, if the woman's a feminist, she's not going to want her man to defend her, stuff like that. But then I decided to go because he talked about movies. So I was like, okay, I'll check the most recent episode of the Culture War podcast to see what, the conversation around movies is. And they were talking about this movie. Let me grab it. Let me grab the citation. So the movie he was talking about was a movie called City of Dreams. The plot summary for the movie, I haven't seen it, but it says...
Wait. Is this the one about illegal immigrants?
I'm going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
Jesus is a young Mexican farmer who travels to LA with the promise of training at a soccer camp. However, when he realizes he's really been sold to a sweatshop to work grueling 18-hour days, he devises a daring plan to escape to freedom. Now, there were a lot of accusations around this movie relating to AMC theaters as far as like suppressing ticket sales.
Cringe shit. That, by the way, also all fake media by Russian operatives. Jack Prosovic or whatever, people were posting videos of them walking into theaters saying the movie theater was sold out, but the seats are empty. Like, they're suppressing the movie. All bullshit, but that's where that narrative comes from. Go ahead.
Right. Well, the CEO himself denied the accusations, obviously, but I decided to look at the latest episode of the Culture War podcast to see what they were talking about. And they were talking about that movie, and the clip of them talking about the movie is, I'm just going to send you a timestamp here so that you can look at, because their discussion around this movie is like, basically, this movie will get people to vote for Trump, is essentially what the conclusion is. I'm going to send you this link. This is the most recent episode streamed 7 days ago. On September 6, 2024. And I believe that this is the episode directly following his response to the Russia allegations.
Base, okay. Can I, I'm going to play this, okay? You'll be able to hear it. Or do you want to not hear it?
Yeah. No, you're good. Go ahead.
What we're looking at now is, if you vote Democrat, the numbers will likely increase. You will see more non-citizens in your community centers, in your schools. They will need to find housing for them. Perhaps these abandoned skyscrapers will turn into migrant housing. Hotels already have.
New York does it.
New York does it. Luxury hotels are turning into this. So the end result is people watching City of Dreams or Sound of Freedom, ultimately, it's a positive pressure for Republicans and Donald Trump to come in office and say, we need security at the border. And maybe you still want large migration, but it can't be at this level because you'll have to vet the people coming in and making sure these children are not being trafficked and are victims.
Yeah, if you're looking around America and you feel like your country's suffering and disease, and then you go to the border, it's like you're looking at the skin of the country and there's the lesions. And you're like, oh, this is where the problem's starting. One of them, because it's just collapsing at the border. I have a letter, it's published in one of my articles.
If you check the dates on this kind of stuff, there's a DOJ indicts 2 RT employees involved in funding Tenet Media. Tim Pool lists its victim. This is a video posted to the Timcast IRL channel 8 days ago on September 5th, right? He talks about, go check out the new Culture War podcast. It's going to come out soon. We're going to talk about movie production. On September 7th, which is obviously a few days after the 5th, 2 days after the 5th. It's the Culture War podcast directly following. They talk about this movie, and while Tim says, we're talking about movie production, it's ridiculous he would say it's political. Obviously, there's something going on here as far as, the discussion around movies is political, because obviously it is with Tim Pool. Like, that's a direct inference you can make. Like, it's not even an inference, just like he's a political guy. He talks about this stuff. And Tim says, well, how would that be funding Russian interests at all, right? How would that be funding Russian interests? Well, I then started looking around for news stuff, and I found this article from AP. I haven't looked into all the sources, so I don't know how accurate all of it is, but essentially they talk about how Russia may have a vested interest in Trump winning because he would have a more favorable kind of policy on them in regards to the Ukraine war. And by them talking about, spreading information about immigration, which Tim Pool is directly doing here, by them doing that, because it's Trump's number one policy issue. They can push for him to be elected, which would help them. So it seems to me like there's a lot of denialism going on here around these subjects, and it just doesn't fucking make sense. Like I do not believe that Tim 1000% knew he was taking money from the Russians. I don't think that was the case. But this idea that like the Russian interests are as simple as like Russia saying Russia good out loud, I love Russia, like is ridiculous. Like
yeah, I know this is so one of the reasons why. Yeah, it's so stupid. This is why it's why I'm working on this January 6th thing. It's why I did that focus group. It's why I get so frustrated when I deal with it, because like people talk about like 9/11 was an inside job. They'll have these insane conspiracies, but stuff like this is very, 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 very out in the open. Like for that J6 stuff, it's really just a matter of me making editorial decisions of like, well, what do I want to show? Because there's a billion things to look at that are court depositions, video testimony, out in the open tweets, out in the open videos, publicly facing websites. Like all of it is so in the open. And when you try to confront any of them on it, it's just like denial, denial, denial. And you know, like you're just starting on this now, but like if you go down this rabbit hole, it never ends, and it's so flagrant and it's so blatant and it's so insane. Like, do you know like Laura Loomer is?
Yeah, the Goblin. Yes, I know who she is.
You know Trump is probably dating her now?
No.
Yeah. She hopped off Air Force One before
he could anyone. Why her?
I know. Yeah. No. Yeah. He's likely dating her now. I won't say he's over 51% chance. He's likely dating her now. Things are getting interesting in Trump world. Laura Loomer is telling our mutual friends that her intimate relationship with the president led to the best blowjob of his life. His words, according to Laura. How weird.
That's smile. That says Trump 2024. Thank you. Thank you. We love you. Yeah. Oh, love you. Thank you so much for inviting me to sit with you today. It's a pleasure. You're the best. I love you. Yeah.
Where's the one with her? Bro, what's going on here? The fact that she's in his orbit is insane as she is. Like all of these people are crazy. It is wild. And also, when I have these,
I can't get over this. Why would he be dating Laura Loomer?
She's an insane, like because Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Okay, these people. Kamala Harris said in her debate, she really needs to lean on this more. Maybe she's not even aware of it. I don't know how many people are aware of this. There are some men that if you tell them what they want to hear, they will give you anything. And men with fragile egos are like this. Elon Musk and Donald Trump are like this. If you hurt their feelings, they will define themselves in opposition to you for the rest of their lives. And if you tell them what they want to hear, they will love you and shower you with praise and gifts and whatever the fuck for the rest of their lives. Like that's how these people function. And yeah.
Wait, isn't he married though?
Melania hasn't been present for almost any of his life. Like she didn't go to either of the debates. She's not anywhere like to be seen with him. She is doing her own thing. I think this is a little more conspiratorial, but like people are saying they've basically already broken up. But I mean, like it seems pretty.
I know he's had extramarital relations, but it just like they're like dating.
Good evening from New York.
I mean, here you can watch this, and if you want, you can dive down this ladder, but.
Oh yeah, I found some pictures of him with his arm around her.
Yeah, and then like them appearing together and her like standing in front of him with her, her chest pressed up to him, and then her coming off Air Force One for debate prep. Laura Loomer, really?
Maybe she's where all the Twitter stuff was coming from. I haven't really. I got to look into this at some point. I got to look into this like whole cats being eaten or whatever thing, but. When the debate moderators, David Muir or whatever, he was like, there's no evidence of that. And Trump's like, I saw it on the TV.
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny. But maybe, a lot of that stuff is coming from Twitter because it does seem to be like a lot of Trump's talking points were like stuff I saw on Twitter last week. So maybe she's part of feeding that to him.
I don't know if we listened to this in the, I think he said it in the Raffensperger call, the call that he made to the Georgia Secretary of State, where the Georgia Secretary of State said something like, I don't know if you guys are getting this off social media, but it's not true. And then Trump says, I'm not getting this off of social media. This is coming from Trump media.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I
so
think that was in the J6 manifesto thing you did. Yeah, it's.
Oh, just one thing I wanted to say
ridiculous.
before though, right? Because so much of the conversations are the debates that I have. Like people ask, like, "What are your good debates?" And I'm like, all of them are basically trash. It's because I'm not really debating anything of substance. I'm fighting people to get them to acknowledge like a very basic, fundamental. Not even fundamental, but like a very obviously true thing. And they won't even acknowledge that. And that's where the whole conversation is around, right? When people say, okay, so I do political work, okay? And my politics and the things that I believe in are really important to me, okay? And I feel like if politics and things you're talking about are important to you, you should be aware of who you might be towing the line for, of whose political opinions you might be inadvertently spreading, especially if you've got some experience here. So, for instance, you're aware of Israel and Palestine. You've heard of those things, right?
I know there's some guys fighting over.
There's some guys fighting over there. Okay.
Thing.
Yeah. I feel very strongly about Israel-Palestine, but I'm very mindful of when somebody might think I am pushing their agenda. And if I'm ever aware of that, I'm obviously pushing back against it. And not pushing back against it like, oh, guys, just so you know, LOL, Israel's not telling me what to say, LOL. There was a guy called Elon Levy, and he wanted me to go on his podcast because when we were driving to a Nas Daily event in northern Israel, he was really excited because I was giving a lot of pushback against Palestinians. So I'm like, yeah, I think the Palestinian narrative is insane, and he was like agreeing with this and vibing with me. And when he brought me on this podcast, I very quickly realized, oh shit, this is like a propaganda piece for Israel. And so the entire show was me fighting with him because I'm not going to sit here and be used as some propaganda tool for you. I'm never ever doing that unless our views like legitimately align 100%. That's never happening. So at the very least, if I were to find out that like, oh, that kick deal that you got came from the Mossad or some shit, you better believe I'm going to be looking back through my talking where it's like, hold on, what the is going on here? Like, am I like getting mind fucked on something? But for somebody to just say like, oh yeah, who cares? I don't know anything about that. Don't care. Doesn't matter. Whatever. And then you just walk away from it. It's like, wait, you're not even curious? I feel like that is very telling of a person's state of mind, in my opinion.
Right. So a few arguments I'm curious about related to this, because you'll see, I've been scrolling through social media when researching this stuff. There's like two main arguments I see. One is more legitimate, one as I'm not really sure. The first one is going to be around obviously AIPAC and stuff like that, and like, oh well, what about people getting funding from Israel and the Israeli lobby and stuff like that? How do you feel about those kinds of arguments? Are you on the side of it's fine because they're disclosing it publicly, because there's records publicly, you can see they were donated to by AIPAC? How do you feel about that kind of thing?
So there's two major underlying points that have to be dealt with. One, boring civics. So I'm giving you this as an opinion. I'm pretty sure it's true, but nobody's going to agree with this. And if you talk to anybody, they're going to tell you I'm crazy. Okay, but I don't think that lobbyists have a heavy impact on how politicians think. I think that lobbyists tend to find politicians that already mostly align with them. I don't think that a lobbyist is going to go to a politician and be like, oh shit, this guy is probably going to win his election, but he's 180 our opinion. Let's dump like $10 million into his campaign to make him like us, right? It's more so what lobbyists are doing is they're identifying close races, and then they're looking at a guy who mostly aligns with their stuff, and then they go to him and they're like, hey, listen, like the shit that we promote is actually really good. You should also promote it, and we're going to donate to your campaign, blah, like this kind of stuff, right? So that being said, Israel is, for as much as people might hate it in the younger communities, is universally loved among older people in the United States. Israel is very popular. Their story, democracy, Middle East, whatever, like people just like that shit, okay? So Israel's already really popular. AIPAC supports like a decent number of politicians that are already popular anyway. They win their elections. That's important to understand because people will constantly cite this number of like AIPAC supported politicians win 93% of their elections. And the impression that it gives to a listener is like, holy shit, they're massively influential in flipping like seats or flipping elections. It's just not true. Number one. And then number two, Israel it's the American Israel Political Action Committee or whatever. It's Israel. It's in the name, right? You're allowed to make these for anything. If you want to make a political action committee to support Russian interests or Ukrainian interests or communist interests or whatever, you're allowed to do that in the United States. That's fine, as long as you publicly disclose.
So is the problem to you less about them receiving money in terms of the RT stuff, or is it just because it wasn't disclosed, or is it both?
Yeah, it's two things. It's
simultaneously you disagree with the political sentiment.
Well, it's two things. One is I don't believe Israel. Does AIPAC make any foreign declarations? Because I don't think AIPAC takes any foreign money or anything like that, or foreign direction. They just are aligned with Israeli interests because it's the American Israeli lobby.
Where do they get their money then? Is it like American Jews?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Yeah, for the Russian stuff. So it's a matter of, one is a matter of disclosure, but two, AIPAC is just not the same type of thing at all. It's totally different. It's not a foreign directed, foreign funded thing. So they have no disclosure, and they announced it in the name. So the disclosure is different, and the foreign funding and foreign direction is not there.
So let's say Tim Pool and all these people were being paid by Russia PAC or something like that, and it wasn't foreign money. It was like Russian businessmen in the United States who like Russia, and they were funding them, and it was publicly disclosed. Would you say that there's not a lot of criticism to be made there about them if it is publicly disclosed?
I'd make a ton of criticism about them, but it would be on their political opinions. At least it would be in the open, and I think that would be so much healthier. It would be way better for the discourse. It's like what I said before about like quote unquote doxing people, but just like making people's at least nationalities known. I think that having that information available at your fingertips is important. Because like imagine you're in a political environment and there's 20 people here, and 10 people are saying we need to stop all immigration, and 10 people are saying, you know, we should let more immigrants in, and you find out that like of the 10 people saying we need to stop all immigration, like 8 of them are Russian. You would look at that situation. You'd view the conversation a lot differently, right?
Right. That would make sense.
Or
now,
to be generous to the Nazi side or whatever, right? Let's say that this is the same conversation. You see 10 people like, we need more immigrants, 10 are saying we need less. One of the we need less immigrants guys is Russian, and like 9 of the we need more immigrants guys is funded by Israel, right? Because the Jews want more immigration, right? Then you look at that differently. Right? That's to be fair to both sides, but yeah.
So I think another follow-up argument that I've heard a lot, which I think this one is a valid thing to talk about. Let me think about how to phrase this. How do you feel about the United States in the past and maybe in the present, who knows what's going on, interfering in other countries' elections and, you know, expanding their own economic interests through the CIA to spread propaganda and topple governments? How do you feel about that?
There's 2 huge points. Well, with one huge point, okay? American foreign policy has dramatically changed since the fall of the Soviet Union. So usually the go-to for criticizing American foreign policy, people are going to bring up stuff we did like in South America during the Cold War. Whether you want to criticize us or not, it's a meaningfully different era. So I don't think it's fair to point to that and look at the modern American foreign policy.
Well, I think the natural argument would be like, well, at the time, we didn't even know that they were doing it. We only found out recently, as far as like, you know, releases from the government and, you know, documents and stuff like that, FOIA requests. We only found out about that recently. So who knows what they could be doing right now?
To be fair, I'm not ultra well studied in Cold War stuff as well as I am with other things since I've been on Vivan. So I'm giving you this I'm hedging this take, but my guess is going to be everybody around the world knew that the United States and the Soviet Union were hardcore meddling with and fucking with other countries. Maybe there wasn't 100% proof, but like everybody just it was the Cold War.
Well, people in the United States didn't know. We weren't having big conversations about it.
I don't know. I don't have enough. I'm gonna.
They were classified documents, you know. I mean,
they might have been classified. They might have been classified, but I'm saying that people probably had an understanding that, like, generally speaking, that it was going on. I think everybody. Like containment was the policy of, you know, fighting against communism, right? Like Vietnam, like Korea, we fought actual wars over it, and then go ahead.
I could be wrong, but I would hedge my bets on the idea that the general public in the United States did not know that the U.S. government was using the CIA to topple governments for the purpose of furthering like the interests of like the United Fruit Company or whatever, for example.
Sure. Okay, yeah, maybe. I mean, that'd be my guess, but. Regardless, post 91, our foreign policy is significantly different in terms of how we approach the world. I don't think that America, it's like the most well-known one that I'm aware of is apparently we spread some anti-Chinese vaccine propaganda in some country to try to make people not buy the Chinese vaccine more. I don't know why or what the purpose of that was, but in general, I don't think America should be involved in that, at least not against countries that aren't doing it to us already. So like if America was doing propaganda on like Russia and like China and Iran, that might be one thing. But I think that it kind of undermines our moral authority to fight back against people doing it to us. So I don't think we should do it. It's not good. But it's not the same as it was in the Cold War era.
Seemingly, but it could be. We don't know.
It's almost certainly isn't, especially because in today, it's so much harder to keep that kind of stuff under wraps because of cell phones, as cringe as that is. Like, it's very, very hard to do covert operations involving hundreds or thousands of people now because so many people communicate with so much information and everything is leaked all the time.
That is true. But in fairness, the RT thing was kept under wraps for 2 years.
Was it? It was. But well,
2 years ago.
I mean, it was kept under. I mean, the indictment came out after 2 years, but like, how long did it take? I would argue that was actually a pretty quick operation. If they found out about it and they were doing all of this work, like that investigation has probably been at least 6 to 12 months, right?
From the government's perspective, yes, but
Yeah.
obviously, still 2 years for that to go on without any of the public knowing is a long time.
Sure, but again, like this was an operation involving what, 8 people or 10 people, only 4 of whom knew about it, and the government found out and published the information within 2 years. That's pretty fucking fast, right? Or maybe even within 1 year. Tenet only launched like 9 months ago. Yeah.
But who's to say, our government could be doing the same thing with 8 people and it could come out in a year or two. We wouldn't even know.
I mean, it is possible, yeah. But I mean, it hasn't come out in 20 or 30 years for stuff like that. But we shouldn't. If we do it, we shouldn't. I don't think it's good.
Are you curious at all about the history of like Cold War, Red Scare era, like CIA operations? Does that interest you or no?
Yeah, it does. I just need to get over this J6 stuff, and then I want to do a whole World War I, World War II history reading. I started a book for World War I, but...
Okay, sounds good. Well, if you want to watch some good comprehensive videos about it, let me know. I know the places to look, but yeah. All right.
Yeah,
how you doing, buddy?
Life?
How's it going?
I'm great. I'm just chilling, big chilling.
Nice. That's good to hear. Any big IRL podcast debates events coming up or no?
No, I've just been kind of, chilling, working on this J6 thing. I think I roasted most of my bridges for the conservative stuff. Now that I see they don't want to debate on anything of substance, so kind of chilling now.
Yeah.
Waiting for, there's going to be like a huge political realignment after the election if Trump loses, so.
I think Trump might lose. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely possible, but I mean, who knows, right? Everything is so crazy. And the Democrats right now, I think the Democrats are on a really good path, but I think the Dems are also really lucky in that there haven't really been any bad things that have come up since what? For the last, I mean, like the Biden thing was a shakeup, but even with Biden, I don't know when the last big bad thing was. Like maybe the big inflation shit.
The last big thing I saw in terms of like accusations of like government corruption or stuff like that towards the Dems was Hunter Biden and the whole Ukraine. Is it Burisma? Is that the name of the company or something?
Yeah,
that whole
but
thing. And I haven't really heard people talk about that in a bit.
Because it's all bullshit. Yeah.
Well, whatever the case, I haven't heard anyone talk about it. Meanwhile, when I was watching that debate, because I watched it live, and one big thing I definitely noticed was Trump, I feel like a few years ago he was having more fun. He was more light on his feet. He was roasting people. He was a lot more smug. And in this debate, that energy wasn't really carried over. He seemed very angry. And I think that might have an effect on just how people view him overall. Because he just, he didn't seem like he was having a good time. He didn't seem happy. He didn't seem aloof. And I think that was, to me especially, one of the things that was like really appealing about his personality. The fact that he was like above it all. He didn't care. He was an outside man. And he was like able to put these politicians on their back feet because they'd never been around someone like him. But it seems now like, at least in that debate, Kamala was a lot more fucking smug than him.
Yeah, 100%. The one thing that people have a difficult time understanding is anger, because it can be deployed in ways that's incredibly effective and in ways that's incredibly self-defeating. I don't know how long you've watched my stuff for, but like when I played League of Legends, like you could see this to where there are times where for StarCraft, when I would play, if I was like angry at somebody, like it's funny, like usually I'm winning my games, I'm like screaming at people, like everybody's having a good time, it's whatever. And there's a lot of anger there, but that's different than like a salty kind of anger where somebody's like stewing.
Yeah, I think the difference in my view is like externalized anger at like the world around you versus like internalized anger over insecurity. And it seemed to me that like, for example, you talked about this a lot, when Kamala made the joke about the rallies, Trump like had to interrupt the moderator and like have his own diatribe for a few minutes about the rallies and stuff. And whatever the case is with the rallies, whether, his rallies are boring or I know he said she was bussing people in. Whatever the case is there, he seemed to get very offended by that notion. And she didn't really even engage with that idea. She just kind of threw it out there and then backed off and went back to talking about what she wanted to do with the presidency. And I think that probably had a big way on it. I pulled my chat on how people felt about the debate, and like who won. And it was about 51 or 52% in favor of Trump and like 51 or 52% in favor of Kamala and like 48% in favor of Trump, which I thought was interesting because in the past, I feel like with every debate I've seen, it's been kind of a smoke show for Trump where even people who don't really like him are like, okay, he won, especially with Biden. But even before that, like at the RNC, in 2016, he was like clobbering them. He was destroying them. And his greatest asset was he didn't really even have to specifically talk about policy positions. He could just roast these people and make them look like phonies, which I think he did very well.
Yeah.
But now I think he's having a very hard time in making Kamala look stuck up.
Yeah, when
and
she's
as a
up there,
result,
like,
he's making himself look
laughing.
very offended.
Yeah, if she's out there kind of like laughing and making faces at him and saying he's kind of like weird or like kind of dropping insults, and he's like staring at the camera. He won't make eye contact with her. His shoulders are kind of shrugged forward, and he's like genuinely very upset. And if I also think that I doubt the media's taking notes from me or whatever, but at least more people are doing this. I think that people need to be making fun of Trump's insanity. Like, he is unhinged, and like the whole like they're eating the dogs. Like, they're eating the dogs and the cats.
Fire. That was so good. They're eating the dogs.
They're eating
I saw it on the TV.
I saw it on the TV. Yeah, the mayor said this wasn't happening. I saw it on the TV. They're eating the dogs and the cats, and it's like, okay, yeah.
That was fucking awesome. I want more of that. That's the Trump that I miss. Just like saying weird shit that doesn't even really make sense. I like that. Another kind of topic I want to talk about is we always seem to talk about Sneako, and I'm curious if you've seen any of the recent stuff around him.
Yeah, I feel like him and Fuentes have like a breakup like every 3 months.
There's kind of a big breakup going on right now, though, around the Haitian cat debacle. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, well, because Sneako is at least half Haitian, right?
Right, and he's basically saying that, well, first of all, he's saying white nationalism is gay. We was Romans, stuff like that, bullying those people. But by the same token, he's also talking about how misinformation and racism is being spread about Haitians. And I think he actually went to Haiti to try and see what's going on or something like that.
Sneako did? Wait,
when? I saw him posting just the other day. Hold on, let me check it. On his, I think it was the Sneako update account? Or was it the Sneako account? Let me see.
I don't know if it's still like scary over there or not.
I'm scrolling through. There was some picture of him. Oh yeah, he said, soon people will know the truth about the beautiful country of Haiti. And it's a picture of him, and I think this is him in Haiti. I can send the picture. I mean, maybe this is somewhere in the United States, and I'm just being racist because the place he is doesn't look very nice. But it looks to me like he is in Haiti in this picture. Maybe he didn't actually go there right now. Maybe this is an old picture, but I might have read into it a bit much. But yeah, it seems like he's having like a schism
I think
with
this is the current
far
one.
right guys.
That's my guess. Is the current picture.
You can tell.
You can tell when he's more current Sneako because he's always doing his best because somebody told him, probably Andrew Tate did, when he was 3 to 4 inches buried in his ass, he was probably telling him, Sneako, if you want to be a strong man, you always have to look like you're fucking miserable every fucking place you go. You have to have the same fucking face all the fucking time, constantly, no matter what. So
well, that is the interesting thing about this. He says, soon people will know the truth about the beautiful country of Haiti, and he looks like he wants to end his life.
He has to have that
car.
face. Somebody told him that strong men always make this face, so he always tries to have the same face, always.
Yeah. He's blasting the My Chemical Romance in Haiti. Fire. But it is an interesting arc he's on where now he's kind of like splitting from some of the American far right guys. And he's talking about how like Christianity is dumb and Catholicism is dumb and Muslims are the true based people. And he's almost like, these days his arguments are almost coming across as more of like a Hassan perspective. Like I'm sure Hassan has been saying the same things about how Haitians are being misrepresented and there's misinformation being spread and it's racist and white nationalists are closet homos and they use religion as a way to promote their beliefs when it's actually hatred, which true Christians would never promote. And at the same time, he's having arguments about Palestine and being pro-Palestine. He's almost mirroring Hassan's arguments in it's an interesting flip to see for sure.
Sure. I guess it's just a little sad that it requires a personal experience for somebody to feel that way. Because if it wasn't Haitians, if it was like Venezuelans or Mexicans or Nicaraguans,
he wouldn't care.
Yeah,
at all.
So it's.
Yeah, but maybe the Haitians are eating cats. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. Maybe they're fiending. They're hungry.
No videos yet, but.
I see a bunch of videos on Twitter. I just don't know what the source is. I have to dive down the rabbit hole because I feel like half the shit I see on Twitter is just like bullshit now.
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
So I gotta figure out what's going on. Cool swag. All right. Well,
how's life going for you, buddy? How you doing?
It's good. Just making videos and stuff. Trying to grind the freaking content out. I've been like really focused on I don't want to have to rely on like outside advertisers and stuff like that. As far as like taking brand deals and stuff. So I've been trying to get my own stuff off the ground with merch drops, and they're going really well. But it's just like so in the past when I've taken like a sponsorship from a company, right? It's like they pay me 10, 15, whatever it is, and I do the ad for them. And it's like at no cost to me, right? Ultimately. Yeah. But now, like when I produce merch, it's like if I want to sell, like recently the drop I did was like 1,200 units. to get those made and shipped to the US before we even sold them, it was like $10,000. And then, after you get it sold on the website, you get them all shipped out. And I do have a guy for that, but
you have to like hold inventory. You've got to like buy in advance and shit, or
you don't have to. I like to do it that way because for my problem with pre-orders is I want to make sure that I can actually deliver on the product that I have. So I would hate to be in a position where like, because I'm not producing the merch myself, it's produced, overseas, and then it gets shipped to the US. Once I have it, then I'm comfortable selling it. But the problem otherwise is, let's say I promise on the quality and the amount that I can deliver and stuff like that, and then these people overseas fuck me over and I have no way of communicating with them and the merch has to get delayed. I don't want to do that. So I'd rather get it, get the designs all done, get product testing made, pay the people overseas to get it shipped to the US, and then once it's in the United States and I can ensure that it can be sold, then I can, sell it that way.
Have you had good luck finding like what you feel is high quality merchandising and everything, or?
Yeah, I have. Thankfully, I have a guy who handles it all for me. As far as most of the logistics, I just have to he sends me the shirt, and I'm like, okay, it's good quality or it's bad quality. If I don't like it, and I have to. Usually, I run it through the wash a couple of times. I wear it for a couple weeks to make sure it works, and then I can sell it. But yeah, it's been good. It has been it's just a trusting process. But I found a guy who's really good at it. If you're looking for someone to help out, but. It's been a good experience, and ultimately the return I get on investment is higher, obviously, because when you do a brand deal, they just pay you a flat fee, right? Basically, I mean, that can be nice. But when I make the product myself, I have to put money into it, but then the return is greater. So for example, the first drop I did, I think it was 10 I put in and we got back 27. So it's 17 in profit, which is good. But I had to put 10 in to get that. And then for the latest one, it was I put 12 in and I think we got back 36. So it's 26 in profit, which is really nice. But obviously there was months of, waiting in the interim when I'm, down $10,000, it just goes out of the account and I'm hedging my bets on the idea that it's good. But I think the key with making merch stuff, I've noticed a lot of people who do YouTube merch stuff are really lazy with it. And I get it because it's kind of an annoying process and it's much easier to just go to Redbubble or Teespring and get it done there. And, the product they have it's fine. But I have found that people are more eager to buy it if they feel like there's an investment in it. And with me, there legitimately is, not just from the money, but a time thing. And all the designs are, I'm giving my artist, inspiration for stuff I want. And, then he'll get back to me and we'll refine the design again and again and again. And, eventually it'll be sold when it's to my liking. But, I think a lot of people, they don't do a really good job with even websites, I can show you, for example, it's almost sold out. So I'm not trying to encourage anyone to buy this, but if you look at the websites that most people make for merch stuff, they're very just bare bones and lazy. The branding is not really there. But for the site that I had my guy make, it has a much more refined aesthetic that reflects the merch itself, and we do this with every drop, which I think is good, but I think a lot of people aren't so interested in that because they see it as more a quick kind of cash grab thing, which is fine, but rather than a long-term investment in building a brand, I guess, that people are going to want to
this is such a cute website. You guys have your own pictures, you've got nice video background, it's built well. Is this a template site or whatever, or did this guy custom make this, or?
No, I custom made it.
Huh.
Pretty swag, right?
It's super swag. It's actually really well done. Nice. Did he make you do the pictures, or did you send it yourself? Or you got a scroll thing and everything.
Yeah, I have a camera guy, so we did a photo shoot when we did the merch ad, and then we just sent the pictures to him, and then he put them all up there. But yeah, it came out pretty good. But yeah, I guess if you're looking for some merch help, I can hook you up with him. But yeah. It's been going good. It's just it's a process of figuring out, business, which I'm not super great at yet. All I really know right now is if you make something good and put a little money into it and promote it to people, it'll probably sell. But that's the extent of my knowledge on these things. So apart from that, it's more ethereal, esoteric,
Sure.
Intangible things like what makes a design good or stuff like that, which is just me, guessing basically. But yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's about all I wanted to talk about. But
you followed any of the Ethan Hassan stuff?